Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This regular meeting of Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designates the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device be so utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of the minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison,
He is out sick today.
Ms. Grace,
She bereavement.
Mr. Mignon,
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winter, here, Mrs. Strada, here, Mr. Mercado,
Here.
Mr. Carlemere,
Here.
Mr. Cardis,
Here.
Mr. Lechner,
Here.
Chief Harkins,
Here.
Mr. Chadwell.
Before we go into our public portion in our agenda, there is an addendum. That addendum is Resolution 2112-349. It's the resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2021 general fund budget. We'll now open up the first public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on any items, please raise your hand. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes, and there's a total of 15 minutes for the public portion. Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Councilor Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Just a basic agenda type question. If you wouldn't mind being mindful of any eGov questions that are submitted that pertain to the first public portion on agenda items, that you could review them. When you go into public portion, on the first public portion, be mindful to read them out as they pertain to the agenda. Other than that, I have nothing.
Mr. Polidoro, we're going to follow the order of business that we established at the beginning of reorganization each year. So they'll be read the way we have established in our order of business.
Okay, it seems
I'll take that under consideration. When we
that's all
reorganization
I
next year.
ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Ordinance, this is a second reading, and there will be a public hearing. This is ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Administrative Code of the Township of Gloucester. What this does is it amends. It basically states that the head of the Department of Community Development and Planning shall be the director. In its current state, the planner serves as a director. The planner does not have to be the director or vice versa. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Mr. Carlemere?
No, that's it.
Okay. We now open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion
I'll make that motion.
Second,
on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winter, here, yes, Mrs. Strada, yes, Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is a second reading. There will be a public hearing. Ordinance 0-21-16, ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. This is updating the Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual. We need this for insurance purposes, and also it's good for employees to be mindful of it. I'll now open up the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I entertain a motion to set. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winter, yes, Mrs. Strada, yes, Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is our resolution, a consent agenda. Any council member that would like to move any of the items on the consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winter, yes, Mrs. Strada, yes, Mr. Mercado.
Yes. We have a few GTE Gov access emails. The first is from Peter Heimball in Morningstar Court, Gloucester Township. On December 14th, I sent an email to the leadership of the Gloucester Township Housing Authority and to Council Member Carolyn Grace in her role as liaison to the Housing Authority. The email detailed a constructive, practical suggestion for cost savings for the Housing Authority. I have not received a response to this email. Could Ms. Grace give her feedback to this cost-saving recommendation? Ms. Grace is not here today. She had a family member pass, so she's on bereavement. I will follow up with Ms. Grace. I don't have a copy of that email, so I can't respond to that. Our next email, eGov email is from Samuel Sweet at 18 Elizabeth Place in Erial. Dear Council, when will the non-fair contracts for 2021 be announced? And when can I expect the EDC minutes and agendas that I requested? Mr. Carter, those contracts, as I understand it, the CFO has been out ill.
Correct.
They can be approved at our following meeting, and it'll be retroactive back to this year. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was clarified with the auditor.
Okay. And second, the EDC minutes and agendas, I have that for Mr. Sweet, and I will give that to him personally. Next, from Samuel Sweet, from 18 Elizabeth Place. According to the statutory regulation, Title 40, EMS is overseen by the Chief of Police when it is not delegated elsewhere, such as a fire district or the OEM branch. It appears that in the past, the business administrator of Gloucester Township was in charge of oversight of EMS. Is that correct? 2, who currently oversees EMS in Gloucester Township? 3, is AMR leaving the township? I noticed that there is a RFP for EMS services. The RFP says that Gloucester Township will be providing 2 buildings in order to house the ambulances. Will Gloucester Township be receiving any compensation for use of those buildings? Use of those buildings. Will the companies be paying rent and our utilities and insurance on those buildings, or will these expenses be the responsibility of the taxpayers like they were in the AMR agreement? In light of these recent developments, and since we have 2 deputy chiefs, has any consideration been given to that one of them could handle the oversight of EMS? Finally, due to the recent and past problems with EMS in Gloucester Township, has any consideration been given to Gloucester Township having a homegrown EMS system, much like Cherry Hill and Voorhees? So I will start first, and I'm going to ask Chief and Mr. Carter to jump in. The RFP was put out on December 10th. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis?
I believe the RFP may have been out before the 10th. We had a meeting with AMR officials on November 17th. The chief was in attendance. The OEM coordinator, Lieutenant John Swack, was also present. At that point, we weren't sure exactly what they were there to discuss. Soon it became evident that the desire was to initiate a 120-day exit clause that is in the contract for termination. That would take them out to a point in time, but I argued at the time that they presented it that they hadn't given us any documentation. They asked for additional funds, but they did not have a number that they were looking for. They had no paperwork. So my question was, are you really here to initiate this at this meeting by word of mouth? When the gentleman responded to me, he said, no. He said, I don't think that would be fair. And I said, I would agree with you. So he said he would get back to us the following week. And that drug on for a couple of weeks. And then finally, we received a notice that was effective December the 10th. I believe we were out for the RFP. I'd have to check with the clerk to see when we did I believe that we handled it as an emergency initially. And then we followed up with a confirming resolution authorizing the advertisement of an RFQ for EMS services. But I believe that was actually advertised prior to the 10th when the first day came that the 120-day period would start. That 120 days carries us out to, as I calculate, April 8th.
You want to tag in?
Certainly. So for the first part of it about the oversight, as I understand it, our administrative code here, the township, that responsibility falls to the mayor's office. The mayor delegates that authority to our emergency management coordinator through me. The emergency management coordinator falls under the Department of Police as per the administrative code of the township. So oversight does fall to the police chief. It's delegated to me through the mayor. The mayor is ultimately responsible. I constantly have contact with him. We always speak about it at our directors meetings. And as far as the business administrator being involved, it's part of the delegation on the business end. I'm more of the operations end of things. And of course, we're going to bring the business administrator's expertise in when it comes down to contracts, dollars and cents, and even the solicitor. Mr. Carlemere is involved with those types of delegated things to make sure that we're doing things the proper way. So who currently oversees EMS in Gloucester Township? Direct oversight is by the emergency management coordinator, retired police lieutenant John Swack. Is AMR leaving the township? That's unknown. We are, we have an RFP out. We're not sure if they're going to put in a proposal for it. I'll defer unless Mr. Cardis wants me to speak about the compensation for use of the buildings. As a general concept of what's going on here, AMR is telling us that they're not making enough money through billing. That's a regional problem. That's what I hear from other police chiefs and other issues. It's a regional issue with staffing, just like staffing at restaurants, things like that. The EMS industry has, including public and private, is having a very difficult time staffing EMS. They're being taxed with the pandemic, with things that are going on. So again, we're constantly monitoring it. I am in contact with the emergency management coordinator daily to get an evaluation to ensure that we're doing all that we can to have EMS coverage for our citizens here. I can tell you that the mayor, Mr. Cardis, Mr. Carlemere, emergency management coordinator, we've been meeting all this week. We've all, even times off, dealing with the situation, trying to address those issues. So expenses and taxpayer agreements, things I can't speak to. I'll leave that. We're waiting to see the RFPs. I think it's January 12th. Is that correct, Tom? Right. So that we'll see what we get, and then we'll make the best decisions. So in effect, the next question is about 2 deputy chiefs. We do have it falls into one of the sections of the police department through emergency management. And I ultimately have that oversight with the emergency management. The only thing I'll add to the last question, finally, due to the recent problems, consideration of Gloucester Township with homegrown EMS. I will tell you that we have explored every option. We are exploring every option. We continue to explore every option. However, there's a great deal of expense. If anybody thinks that is a self-pay or an even out endeavor, my experience and my research up to this part, it is not. They are getting the billing is the issue. Otherwise, I believe AMR wouldn't be pulling out from us, quite frankly. I was asked to go on a meeting call at the request of the chief of Voorhees. Voorhees is mentioned here, requesting my input through my experience of a private EMS service, because they are looking to get away from. They have a municipal run through their fire department EMS service, and the expenses are great. I'll leave it at that. So I gave my input on that. So and it is a issue in the region that we are trying to address, trying to bring the attention to it. So that's my only input on that. To answer the question as consideration, we're considering all the options. We speak with the administration team. It is a top priority for us to get the best option for our citizens. So,
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
May I comment?
On the buildings?
On the buildings, yes. And just a clarification, the prior contract was GTEMS, and then it transferred over to AMR. And that contract was constructed in a way that there was zero cost to Gloucester Township, other than the cost for the building. And they rarely used AMR now that it's transitioned over, rarely use that building to begin with. If you notice, most of the time you see those vehicles parked in Rite Aid, Walgreens, Kmart, wherever. So to
That's their
provide-
choice.
to
So
provide such a crucial service as EMS, life-saving service, I mean, that's a fairly cheap price to be paying for that service. And as the chief points out, it is getting very difficult for towns that are doing it themselves, for companies that are in the business of EMS, to provide these services. And that's part of the reason why we're here. So with regard to the buildings, my intention would be not to charge them rent, not to charge them the utilities, and to make the package that we're putting out as attractive as possible so that we do get a responsible bidder that can provide those life-saving services to the residents of Gloucester Township. I'm not going to nickel and dime. I would not recommend you to nickel and dime this type of contract. This is a very important contract, and we need a reliable contractor to perform the services.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Cardis. I forgot to add the resolution, the addendum. So Resolution 21-12-349, resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2021 general fund budget. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
He stepped out for a second.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strada? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We'll now open up our second public portion. The public portion is open for 30 minutes. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. Anyone like to speak? Mr. Krug?
Good evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates.
Good evening.
I hope everyone had an enjoyable holiday with their families.
Thank you.
Ms. Stubbs, it's nice to see you back. I hope you're feeling better and continue to get well. Mr. Lechner, I believe this is your very last meeting, and I wanted to say thank you again and the best of luck in retirement.
Thank you. He wants to be peppered with questions this evening. Go ahead.
As Ray mentioned, and I think I'd like to second the request during your reorganization meeting, that if we are aware of eGov questions that pertain to either an ordinance, which is having its second reading in a public hearing, and or the consent agenda, maybe it would be nice to hear those prior to. Sometimes other people's inputs or viewpoints bring questions to the front of my mind when they're read aloud. So I would request that as well. First topic I wanted to bring up is a conversation we've been having probably over the last 2 or 3 council meetings with regard to an RFP that went out for a 7-ton roller. And when we had the first conversation, we spent a lot of time on the maintenance of athletic fields, which I thought was the main purpose, and hence why I provided each of you a company that makes specific equipment for filling divots and rolling sports fields. The next meeting, we discussed unpaved roads, and I didn't quite have that email in front of me, but I did go home, and on my desk was the email from Bob Morris to Tom Cardis, and unpaved roads is indeed on there. Although maintenance of athletics fields is listed as number 2 in parentheses, it does say this is the primary reason. And so I wanted to combine 2 of my suggestions. One, maybe it would be most cost effective to have a non-mechanical roller for our athletic fields, which are significantly more cost effective. And then 2, maybe it would be better for the unpaved roads, which listed here, there's 7 roads and 3 parking lots. Maybe it would be most cost effective to rent the road roller when needed for those 7 roads and 3 parking lots, instead of the $44,000 capital expenditure plus maintenance cost long term. So I just wanted to bring That suggestion, it kind of combined two of my thoughts on how to be cost effective in this manner. So I just wanted to make that suggestion.
Okay.
The other thing this evening I wanted to bring up was the NPP Stakeholder Committee. Obviously, last meeting I mentioned that we had won the grant, and I gave a congratulations to all those involved. After that meeting, I participated in the survey that's on Gloucester Township's website, in addition to the live Zoom meeting with regard to the MPP program. And Jake ran a wonderful meeting, and I think it was very productive. So productive, it, invigorated my excitement surrounding downtown Blackwood. So I applied to be a resident and business patron resource for the MPP stakeholders. And I was hoping I could garner some support from council to become a stakeholder. So maybe if you could reach out on my behalf to Regina Caristo or Jake Monticello, it would be much appreciated, as I'd like to contribute as best I can to the MPP Stakeholder Committee.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Shaughnessy?
Happy holiday. Shaughnessy Smithman. I reside in Millbridge Gardens Apartments on Millbrook Road, apartment 341. Happy New Year, holidays. Congratulations on your retirement once again. I had a topic to bring up for the new year, something that may not really be thought about ever. It was about the different things that were taught in school for situations that we don't know what to do with. When I was in elementary school, I attended Whitehall Elementary in Williamstown. It's Monroe Township. The local police or local fire department came into the school and told everyone that if we were to light a fire or see a fire, to go get an adult. Because apparently they were finding children hidden in houses and place structures that were burned. What they gathered was happening was children were lighting fires. They got scared and they didn't want to get in trouble, so they would hide, and the fire would consume them. Within my elementary school years, I was playing with matches, lit a fire by my shed, and I did want to hide. My ears went, I couldn't hear anything, but I went and got an adult. And then I hid. But they put the fire out. That was a situation that they knew of after terrible things were happening. There's a lot of things that we don't really accommodate for, that if we just had a little bit of insight, we're all children in our mind if we never came across the situation. They begin to teach private areas. Boys have their own section, girls have their own, and then they begin to teach safe sex practices in high school, and they continue on with that education. They don't teach what to do in the case of a stillborn or miscarried child, which, from what I understand now as an adult, can happen from any time of conception to stillborn. It may not be noticed on pictures or x-rays or films, and the symptoms mimic everything from depression, mental diagnosis, infection, and tumors. There's many things that can mimic what a failed pregnancy can be, especially if it does not arrive in the most common area of the womb. And if the pregnancy is no longer viable, I don't think it tests positive for just a standard test. Knowing that now, I heard of a situation that had occurred where they had found the remains somewhere. And I think it happens quite often, but they don't teach you what to do with it. And when I thought about it, I wouldn't have known what to do either. But the opinions were so strong that I don't think that anybody that it happened to could stand in front of a microphone and talk about it. I don't think that it's possible. So I wanted to bring that up, is if we could try to take into consideration, what do? We have a safe place to drop off children that are abandoned, infants through whatever age. We have a safe gun drop off. You can drop off a weapon with no questions asked. If there's any way possible just to find some insight and then tell anybody just what to do at all. When I inquired about it, one suggestion was that it should be very logical to dial 911. I don't think it is. I come from privilege. I was born in this country. I was raised in New Jersey. My father was Navy. I speak the language. It's the only language I speak, so there's no translation issues. Like I said, my parents owned the home. I knew what a doctor was. I attended school regularly. I wouldn't know what to do. It wouldn't take much for somebody to not realize to call 911, which is actually still fairly new. We didn't have 911 growing up. It wasn't until, I think, almost middle school that it was everywhere in the nation. We don't know what to do, but it's such a natural occurrence. Maybe if we could just find something, some insight of what to do. Is there any? Anyway, I didn't think there would be an answer. I just thought I would bring it up.
Well, my initial thought, if you're trying to reach children in our school system, we should bring this matter to the Board of Education for the local, K through 8, and also through high school. That's a separate entity than here. We're not involved in the education of children here.
Oh, of the community. This happens to everybody, including men. While they don't have the child,
Okay.
the circumstance could be presented to them
I'm
what to
talking
do.
first about the fire and also the matter that you're discussing. You talk about children don't know what to do. Those things that you're
People
looking
don't know what to do.
children you'd indicated. So if you're
That
trying
was
to
when they
reach
taught them.
children, Ms. Shaughnessy, I suggest that you reach out to the Board of Education regarding those matters.
Oh, no, I brought up the children incident to explain of a situation that would occur that we as human beings don't know what to do. As human beings, we don't know what to do, but given just a little insight on what to do when you're scared because you did something wrong or you think that you did, they begin teaching it to children. It's a separate incident. It was just very common because children play with matches. I'm sure that there's adults that hide as well.
Okay.
But that's when they teach it. This other incident is something that occurs to all people because we're born. So pregnancy occurs. The man is there as well as the woman, and if not, somebody else could be. This situation could present itself and people would not know what to do.
So I'll have to think about a little bit about that and get back to you. Okay.
Thank you.
But I would suggest reaching out to the police department, where they have a social worker that's available, also social
you're being
services.
very involved.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
You're
You're stepping over me. Okay. So the police department, there's a social worker that's available. We also have the Camden County Board of Social Services. Chief, you want to chime in?
Yeah,
And then unfortunately your
somewhere for
time's
you to
up
go
after
look
that.
for more information is the Safe Haven Act. We're active participants in the New Jersey Safe Haven Act. Anyone can bring a child, no questions asked, an infant up to a certain age to
stillborn or miscarriage.
to bring to the police watch desk, and we have very strict protocols and procedures on what to do.
Stillborn or miscarried, not born.
Well, stillborn or miscarriage, you have to call.
Right, that's what I mean is there is
All right,
no.
We have this for children that are being abandoned. We have.
Right, then that's what I mean. If they're not, if they
So
weren't
you can
born,
research that as my suggestion. Thank you.
that's what I'm trying to do is research the matter.
Well, I'll try to gather some more information for you. Thank you, Ms. Shaughnessy. Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening again, Council. Ray Polidor from Ariel. Just to keep updated on what we generally come to me to ask about, the market affordable question was asked to the Housing Authority, and basically by the Zoom meeting, they turned it into a joke, and that's pretty much where it's amounted to. No answers, shoulder shrugging, back and forth that goes between the two of us, but it's now turned into a joke.
Okay. thanks
Secondly,
for
on a
that.
very serious
Thanks for that update. Go ahead.
very serious matter. Does anyone here recall how long the GT EMS Alliance was in service here in Gloucester Township? And we had just the Alliance.
20 years?
In some realm of through the 90s to the 2000s.
And obviously, it grew to some extent. There were some good times, some bad times. Do we ever remember having a situation with the Alliance or anything previous to when we started looking for outside EMS service? Did we remember ever being in a situation like this back through the 90s and the early 2000s?
I do recall that there were some improprieties taking place there.
But
And I recall you coming to our meetings and advocating to keep the Gloucester Township EMS.
well,
Let me finish. So that's what I recall, the tail end of it. I also know that the service at the end was lagging. So that's why we had to make some emergency moves as a township to fill in for the Gloucester Township EMS. So, I know you like to get nostalgic sometimes, but
I'm not.
the end, let me finish, please. At the end, no, it was the township had to take it over. Am I correct, Mr. Cardis?
You're absolutely.
Chief?
I can add, so a little historical perspective. I was a volunteer fireman at Choose Fire Company in 1993 up till 2006. Became a police officer in 1995. When I got hired as a police officer, we had a very robust volunteer ambulance squad. We had 3 volunteer ambulance squads that gave us very good coverage up until in the 2000s. But even when I was a new police officer in 1995, the township had contracted with, I think it was Jefferson or we ran an ambulance out from underneath the Sally Port here for daytime because volunteers weren't available. So that goes back to 1995 since we had at least supplemental a career or private ambulance service. That continued through to the EMS Alliance. Health Tech was the first crew that came in here. And so then that kind of got passed over, and what happened, the volunteers got together and formed the EMS Alliance, but they started lacking in volunteers just by the wayside. Volunteerism is down across the board, even with our fire departments. So that was not viable. I was also a police officer on many calls out waiting 45 minutes, 50 minutes for another town to send an EMS, an ambulance to someone's house. That was untenable, and that's where we got to the point where it's such a critical service. We need to have, round the clock, guaranteed EMS service. And that's what, as I recall, being involvement to the level that I was throughout my career, that we had to go through to get a paid service. So that's a little bit of a history of it. And now we have no volunteer ambulance. They don't exist. And I don't know that they do in many other towns. Some do, but in a very limited capacity.
Thank you, Chief. Continue, Ray.
And that sounds pretty accurate to what has happened in the past, and I fully agree with that. What I'm looking at, and again, I'm not a person of hearsay. I speak to people that I think know. I don't come in here with rumors. I don't follow Facebook as closely as you do, Orlando.
I don't have a blog like you do, but go ahead.
Call it what you will. And this is not, right now it's not the time for
But Ray, if you're going
Orlando,
if you're going to say something, you're going to get something
Mr.
back.
Mercado,
Please
I'm
continue.
talking about something serious. It's not time
Please
for pissing
continue.
contest. It
Please
really is.
continue. And we'll give you your 5 minutes and you'll be up.
Is there anyone here that can dispute that last Wednesday we had little or no coverage of EMS service throughout the township? Is there anyone that can dispute that we had 1 of 3 EMS vehicles in service last Friday, and on Christmas night, is there anyone that can dispute that we had no EMS coverage for what we have here in the township from AMR? Is there anyone that can dispute just those 3 nights?
I'm not aware of that. I'll defer to the chief.
So we've made arrangements that with the Pine Hill Fire Department, which stood up an ambulance throughout those. Again, these are part of the challenges that we've had. This is why an RFP was put out, because we're seeing a service failure in regards to AMR. We have not been pleased. We've been dealing with staffing issues for quite some time. Legally, we brought all our township weapons to bear to try to get them. They are not fulfilling their contract, and we are attempting to address that. And we've had coverage for mutual aid for life-threatening emergency for EMS service. However, we had a failure that night, and we took emergency precautions. I alerted police to do extra things. We brought our fire departments on board so that now fire department is supplementing. We are working day by day to ensure we have coverage. We've had an emergency meeting with our fire chiefs and our fire officers and fire commissions to get solutions into play. And we are working diligently to do that. And it is our top priority. I can speak for the mayor to say that it is his top priority. Mr. Cardis, Mr. Carlemere, I can't tell you the number of hours through the holidays we've been on the phones trying to resolve this, and we're confident we will resolve it because we know how important it is. This is my town too. My family at risk as well, and I take it very serious.
Thank you, Chief. Is there anything
I'll
else,
finish
Mr.
by
Palmer?
saying that, is there anything that restricts us from going outside of the state for volunteers, emergency volunteers, or in desperate times? Is there anything that would prohibit us from using? Is there any licensing or certification that if we needed some EMT volunteers or paid otherwise to help us out in an emergency situation from either Maryland? Because I know Pennsylvania's having the same problem we are.
They have to have a New Jersey licensed EMT certification. That's what's been reported to me. So, no, there's no simple solution. AMR is a Pennsylvania-based company, and they are having trouble staffing us over there.
Gotcha. And as much as this is a dangerous situation, I do say, and I have heard that the township, everyone in the township is working very, very, very hard to resolve this. So we appreciate the efforts. We just hope that that it pays off and that AMR at least fulfills their obligation and that no one in our town is vulnerable at a very critical time. Happy New Year. Have a very healthy New Year, and let's hope that it's better than the last two.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Does anyone else want to speak? Ms. Shaughnessy, you'll be our last speaker.
Shaughnessy Smithman, Millbridge Gardens Apartments, Millbrook Road, Apartment 341. I wanted also, if I could, with some of the meetings I was here, shamefully I did not attend all of them. Shamefully, even more, I did not attend most of the meetings for the year 2021. But at some of the meetings, there was prayer. I believe prayer is a good thing. I don't know if I'm still an active member. There's been some physical and mental complications. I am not aware of my certification or my standing with the local Union 98 in Philadelphia. It's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work with a lot of people of a lot of different faiths and a lot of different backgrounds. We pledge the allegiance, just the same, one nation under God, as we have throughout elementary school, every day, and high school. The best part about the flag, I think, and pledging allegiance, that includes everyone. It includes people that don't pledge the flag. We pledge the allegiance, so everyone, whether you want to pledge your allegiance or not, are included here, and that includes prayer. If I may ask, though, if they're not, unless they're being given for different faiths that want to come in and present their beliefs, if they're given the same amount of time as everybody else during the public speaking, I think that would be very fair. But not to be given a special accommodation unless there is an award being presented or something additional that has to do with the city council, because I think that they should be included, but just not as more elite than any other citizen. Jesus Christ was a citizen just like everyone else. If that's all right. Everyone seemed to be okay with it. I am, of course, okay with prayer, but like I said, if it could be directed more towards the free time, just like everybody else is given, I think that would be very fair, and I think everybody would accommodate that. I would.
Shaughnessy, there's a ministerium that's comprised of our religious leaders here in Gloucester Township. They meet periodically with the mayor and the ministerium. They set forth a schedule of clergy that comes here and provides the prayer. During the pandemic, to be quite frank, folks didn't want to come in, and that was something that I respected. And as the pandemic slowed down a bit and COVID cases went down, we had clergy coming to our meeting. With this variant rising, folks are a little skittish about coming here. And that is something that we're one of the few towns in the area that does have prayer before our council meetings. And I think that's a wonderful addition to our council meetings. If clergy wanted to speak, they have the opportunity to speak. In my time here, no one has ever asked if they could speak on a particular topic. When we have special events during Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, or Women's History Month, or other celebratory things where clergy has been here, we've afforded the opportunity to speak, and they have. But I don't think that I'm going to set aside 5 minutes or 3 minutes for them to speak.
Oh, no.
But that's how I'm interpreting what
No, what I'm saying
your
is
comments are.
the prayer is given as a special addition to the presentation of the city council meeting for Gloucester Township. We pledged the flag, and then they were given the same amount of time. I guess
I'm not following you. What are you saying?
if they
I'm
wanted,
trying to understand.
if somebody of faith, a congregation or religion would like to have prayer, that it be given with the same allotment to all the other citizens of Gloucester Township, Camden County, state of New Jersey, which would be the 5 minutes that I'm being given right now during the public portion.
And if that clergy would want it to speak or add something to it, I'm fine with that. I guess I'm not following you.
So am I allowed, just as a regular citizen, to have a speech beforehand? That's not agenda.
Well, you know,
I'm affected by the pandemic
You
as
spent
well.
10 minutes today on two topics. I mean,
No, less than 10 minutes.
no, you're coming up on 10 minutes. Okay? And so you've had an opportunity to speak here and express your opinions. You brought up many things here in the time that you come to our council meetings. Some things we've been able to respond to. Some things, we have to look into. But we do have prayer. When clergy's here, we allow them. If they want to add to that prayer, they can add to it. I'm still not following you. But
I just asked that the prayer be focused or directed to the standard time that's given to all the other members of the community.
But perhaps that's incumbent upon the clergy. If the clergy wants to go on give a 5-minute prayer, I'm not going to cut
But the
them off.
clergy's doesn't work for the city council or for the county.
They don't work for the county. They're part of they're part
Members
of a
of the
religious
community.
organization here. They're part of our community.
Yeah, just like me.
Okay.
So wouldn't they be given the same time as all the other
But
citizens?
that is on them. If they want to give a
But
5-minute,
you gave them
Shaughnessy,
special-
if they want to give a 5-minute prayer, they can give a 5-minute prayer. If they want to give a 30-second prayer, they can give it this 30-second prayer. There's not a time limit on that.
But you're giving it during council time.
No, we haven't even started the meeting yet. That precedes our meeting. Okay? Thank you very much for your questions, for your comments. Is there anything else?
No, not right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Happy New Year. Merry
Happy New
Christmas.
Year. Close the second public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Groman.
I would just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Best of luck in your retirement. I think you're going to be missed here. You have a lot to offer, and you've kept the township on a good planning focus. Appreciate all your comments to my office and how we work together. You're going to be missed.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
Mr. Curtis.
Happy New Year also, and I do want to wish Ken success in his retirement. You're a damn good planner. I think more importantly, you're passionate about what you do, you care about what you do, and that's what stands out. And I think you leave Gloucester Township a better place.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that.
I'm glad to work with you.
Same here.
Mr. Leffner.
Well, I was going to say I have nothing to report, but I just want to say that, again, I appreciate the opportunity to work here in Gloucester Township and all the people I've worked with, council, mayors, citizens. It's been a planning job second to none. I kid you not, I've worked in other municipalities. For other municipalities, I worked in the private sector, representing other municipalities, and Gloucester Township is second to none. I kid you not. I mean that with all my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lecter.
Mr. Perkins.
I want to wish everybody a happy and safe New Year, busy time. The pandemic is taxing us in many ways, but we're staying ahead of it as best that we can. So please continue to be safe. Don't drink and drive. We'll enjoy the New Year's. But I do want to say and congratulate Ken. First of all, I've had the pleasure of sitting here next to Ken many times, especially since being chief of police. But even prior to that, many years where projects that I worked with Ken. You'd be surprised how much the community development department and the police department would have to overlap to get things done for the town. And being next to Ken in directors' meetings, always being jovial, it has been a pleasure. And I on behalf of the men and women of the police department, we thank you. We thank you for looking after us and assisting us whenever we needed it. And we're going to miss you and wish you all the best. You did a great job, and I congratulate you and your family. Thank you.
Mr. Travel.
Happy holidays and happy New Year. Congratulations to Kim as well. There's going to be a big void there. It was great work to do. So that's
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mignon.
Thank you all for coming. I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And to talk about, the pandemic, you said, Chief, healthcare is brutal right now. Unfortunately, I apologize for having to step out, take this phone call. I am the administrator on call at the hospital I currently work at, and we're having some issues going on, some emergencies. But it's some tough times right now. We thought we were over with this pandemic, but it's flourishing right now. So everyone, please be safe, and let's hope that we're done with 21 and 22 is better. Last but not least, Ken, I'm envious of anyone that gets a chance to retire. I hope someday I get a chance to see what that's like. Best of luck to you. You will be sorely missed. Thank you.
Mrs. Stubbs.
A safe and prosperous new year to everyone. All the brings peace and blessings, a lot more than we received in 2021. Mr. Lackner, it's been a pleasure working with you. I've always respected you and appreciated you. Whether I was looking at the map upside down, you have turned around for me. Or I never felt that there was a question I couldn't ask. And I truly appreciate that. So, thank you for doing that.
Mrs. Winters.
I want to wish everyone a safe and happy, healthy new year. Like Michael said, we are ramping up again. It is getting very ugly very quickly. The hospital that I'm at, our numbers are getting extremely high, so please be careful. Keep yourself safe through the holiday season. I wish everyone the best of luck with all of that. And hopefully this is the last time we're talking about it for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it'll slide, but we'll see. Mr. Lechner, good luck. Like Michael said, I am a little envious. Can't wait to get there. But it has been a pleasure, and we wish you the best of luck.
Mrs. Trotter.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year also. Ken, it's been a pleasure working with you over the years. I appreciate your passion that you have for your projects and sharing that information. I'm very grateful for the times that you've made yourself available to me, whether after hours or during the day, whenever I could reach out to you. You're always there to answer questions, and I appreciate that. And nothing was ever too stupid. So for that, I'm very grateful for. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds for you and all your fun projects that you have to start in your guitar playing. All the best to you.
Mr. Mercado?
There'll be a garage band. Is that what you're okay. Thank you everyone for coming out this evening. Mrs. Stubbs, it's nice to see you again. Welcome back, and I'm glad that you're feeling healthier. I talked a lot about Mr. Lechner at our last meeting, but I just wanted to add a few things. As I said, I was on the council representative on the planning board for 9 years. And during that time period, Mr. Lechner was planner and also the secretary to the planning board and worked under 3 different mayors. And he called it down the middle, never partisan. I made a comment the last meeting. He took a lot of shots over the years on behalf of council and mayor, but was never partisan in going about his business and doing what's best for our township in respects to planning and land use. But I think his crowning moment was how he shepherded his department from the years of 2013 to 2015 that culminated in the largest economic development project in the township, the premium outlets. It was made known to Mr. Lechner that this thing had to happen, and it happened. So I want to thank you again for your work on that project, but all the projects throughout the years. And I wish you the best of luck to you and your family in retirement. I'll see you posting stuff on Facebook. And, he's quirkier than you know when you see his postings. But I said it last meeting, I'll say it again. You were just not a Monday through Thursday employee here. You were a 7-day-a-week employee that cared about this community. So I appreciate all your efforts here, and I wish you the best. God bless you.
Thank you. If I don't have it now, but first of the year, maybe I'll have an Instagram and Twitter account.
Oh, no, stay on that. No. So.
And I've been asked to maybe do a blog. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, planning blog. I'm sure you get two or three followers. Okay. So, all right. So with that, I wish you well, everyone. Happy New Year. I entertain a motion.
I'll make
Adjourn.
that motion.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Before I can't see anymore.